Welcome to One More Podcast, where we're having one more conversation about what matters. Whether you're on the treadmill or in the drive-thru, we're really glad you hit play. You can listen to One More Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also watch every episode on YouTube or on Spotify. And hey, if you enjoyed today's conversation, do us a favor, subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this episode with a friend. Seriously, you never know how a simple share might impact one more person. Coming up in today's episode.
America is becoming more secular, but still, I mean, the stats say like 80 to 90% believe that there is a God. The question I wanted to ask is about doing ministry in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, sure. So about 5% of the population go to church. 5%. Yeah, so it's very small. Ever since the Second World War, basically, church attendance has been in decline. But the Anglican Church in the UK is the biggest church and the most attended. But I think 61% of those churches have no one under the age of 18. Churches haven't done well in adapting style or approach. And so therefore it just becomes irrelevant to people.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to One More Podcast. And we are super excited today. This is our very first international podcast. Of course, I am Carter McInnes, and glad to have some friends here. Let me give you a little bit of background, and then we're going to have, this is going to be a one more Q&A, one more question, but it's my question. We have some friends from Great Britain here, and we're just excited to hear from them and learn from them. About 7 or 8 months ago, Mountaintop Church began an international partnership with a church in our network in the United Kingdom, the Forge Community Church in Suffolk County. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit more about that. And we have gotten to visit with each other over there, now over here. And while they're here, I was like, we need to have some of these guys on the podcast. So why don't we go around and you just introduce yourself, tell us your name and what you do at the Forge. We'll just start over here with you, Tim.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Tim and I'm the Next Gen Director at The Forge. So yeah, I've been working at The Forge for 7 years now, but I've been at the church for over 20 years. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know you'd been there that long.
Yeah,
wow.
I know I look a lot younger.
Yes, of course,
yeah.
Yes.
Started
a mere
as a
child
baby,
when you began.
Yeah.
Sure, and I'm Steve Fenning. I'm the senior leader of the Forge Community Church, and I've been doing that for 34 years now, and I'm married, got 3 children. They're all married, and got 2 grandchildren with 2 on the way.
That's awesome. And not only the senior leader, the founding pastor.
You
started the church.
I did, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm Ben. So it's great to be here, and I'm the creative director at The Forge. Been here for about 8 years, and married with 2 of my own children, and we foster one at the moment as well, so that's great.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about, I got to come over and visit with you guys back in March, and you are not in London. So tell us about where you are and what that community is like, because I think it's kind of surprising if you've never been there. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, so we're in the county of Suffolk, and Suffolk is made up of kind of 2 major towns, but loads and loads of villages. And so each of those villages might be kind of between 1,000 and 3,000 in population. And as a church, we meet in a leisure centre, so we pull people in from lots of the villages around as part of the church. But it's very rural and lots of countryside, all farming. Kind of a farming area.
When you were there, you took us to the house that you grew up in. Your mother still lives there.
She does.
Tell us about how old that house is.
Yeah, so the house is 500 years old, and when it was built, it had no foundations. They just had shingle on the ground, an oak beam, and then they dig out clay from out the front of the house and mix that with straw and have built the house. And so 500 years later, it's still standing, still going strong.
Crazy.
Lots of old beams involved in it.
Your house is twice as old as America.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What are maybe the towns and cities, Tim, that maybe people that might be familiar with that are in Suffolk County?
So there's one sort of big town that maybe you might be familiar with, and that's a place called Ipswich. Now, if you're any soccer fans here, there's a team called Ipswich Town, and they were in the Premier League last season, but have got relegated. But hopefully, when this podcast comes out, they might have got back into the Premier League. So for those of you who are soccer fans, you might have heard of them. But you will have heard, I no doubt will have heard of Ed Sheeran. And Ed Sheeran lives not far from where we meet as a church. So he is sort of the most famous person that comes out of the land of Suffolk.
Yes.
After Steve Fenning.
After Steve Fenning, of course. Yeah. Steve calls him Ed
he's the patron saint of Suffolk.
Yes, yes.
Saint Ed.
Yeah.
Saint Ed, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You grew up in a different area, though.
Yeah, I grew up nearer London, which is, I don't know if you can hear it, but that's why I sound a lot less educated. So, I think your listeners, people watching this, probably more high caliber than this, but I come from a part of the world called Essex, right?
Yes.
And we are famous because... you have like Jersey Shore, is it?
Yeah.
We have our version of Jersey Shore is filmed in my home county.
Gotcha. Okay.
So say no more.
Yes.
It's as tragic as
But
Jersey Shore.
my hometown is the oldest city in the UK. So it's over 2,000 years old.
That's wild. That's wild. Okay, so the question I wanted to ask is about doing ministry in the United Kingdom where you do it. I think, as I have talked to a lot of people about our church partnership, and they're really surprised at kind of the secular world of the United Kingdom. Like, I think a lot of people think it's a lot like America, it's just the West, it's a Christian nation, and I'm like, it's a lot different than kind of our world, and we think of our country as secular, but it's kind of nothing compared to the culture. So just talk about like the percentage of people that go to church, what it's like over there. Then I'll ask my question.
Yeah, sure. So about 5% of the population go to church. 5%. Yeah. So it's very small. Ever since the Second World War, basically, church attendance has been in decline. I think in a recent survey, I think it was 46 or 47% said that they believed in God, as in how we as Christians would view God.
Yeah.
But 5% go to church. So so it is very secular. I wouldn't say that it's hostile to Christian faith.
Right.
I would say it's apathetic.
That. Yeah.
It's just apathetic. It's just hasn't been relevant to them. So it's kind of... to give you an example, I think it takes 2 Baptist churches a year to baptize one person.
Wow. So they they average
that's right.
0.5 a year.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's 61%. So the Anglican Church in the UK is the biggest church and the most attended. But I think 61% of those churches have no one under the age of 18. So there are so many of these village churches, but they're just made up of older people, and so of course there are exceptions to that. But it's apathetic towards the Christian faith.
Yeah,
I mean, I find it hard, like even telling. I didn't realize it was odd until you spoke this morning. But like, I don't know how to tell people what I do as a job.
Yeah,
if I said I'm a worship pastor, they would have no concept of what that is. Or even if I said I lead a church, people don't like, what, you're on staff at a church? What, like, do you do tours? Like, a church is an old building in the middle of some kind of rural village. Like, I don't know how to tell people what I do. And I didn't realize that was unusual until I came over here. You say you're a pastor, people have an idea of what that
means. Especially in the Deep South, everybody knows, and now, this is different in different parts of our country, but in the Deep South, there is still a level of respect for that position.
What's that like?
People try not to cuss in front of you.
That's not my experience.
What's really interesting, though, is that in a recent survey done in the UK, 75% of families with under fives have a connection with a church. 75%, and that's through kind of parent toddler and those kind of things, which are run by churches.
So they go to some kind of preschool or So I mean, just to get our listeners that are predominantly American, that means you work in an office in the United Kingdom with 100 people. Let's say it's a pretty good size. 95 of them are probably not going to attend church. That you and 4 other people attend church if you're a Christian, and then out of 10 people, only 4 or 5 actually believe in God, and that's just so different. I mean, America is becoming more secular, but still, I mean, the stats say like 80 to 90% believe that there is a God. They might not go to church. All right, how did it get that way? Like you said, since World War II, how did it get that way?
To be honest, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I think that churches haven't done well in adapting style or approach.
Yeah.
And so therefore it just becomes irrelevant to people. I think that that kind of expectation of a generation that, you went to Sunday school, I think the next generation kicked against that. And so the next generation didn't. They weren't sent to Sunday school. And so it's just diminished as time has gone on. As each generation happens, I think it just diminishes.
I also think if you look at TV shows, TV shows from when I was a kid, Knight Rider, I know that shows you how old I am.
Yeah.
Like, that would not work nowadays on TV. And so TV shows have had to adapt and change, and churches haven't adapted and changed. So nobody's going to be interested in something that hasn't adapted and changed and doing exactly the same thing as what they were doing 30, 40, 50 years ago.
We did a podcast a couple of months ago about some of the questions, were the biggest questions facing the American church. And one of the things I said is traditionalism. It is still, even though probably the American church has come far, there's nothing wrong with tradition, but traditionalism, which is just tradition for the sake of tradition, is dangerous because no organization can do that, right? I mean, no organization. You have to, you have to adapt. The Apostle Paul adapted. He used the Roman roads, right? So that's an adaptation to share the gospel. All right, so here is my question. What can the American church learn? Because it's possible we're where you are in 25 years as a culture. Maybe not. The evangelical church and even kind of denominational churches still have a lot of influence. Probably when you hear things like what you're talking about, but we seem to be heading that way. But what is it like doing ministry in that setting, and what can we learn that you're learning about how reaching people who are completely apathetic to faith, and like you said, maybe not hostile, but are just really, really non-Christian?
Yeah, I mean, I think in one sense we're at an advantage in that we don't have to undo some of the preconceived ideas. We often use language around what the church is known what it's for, when we're known for what we're against.
Yeah.
But we don't wrestle with that so much because it's not that the church is known for what it's against. It's like we're not known.
We're not known. So
we're not known.
So different.
So it's almost like at least we don't have to. We're almost like starting from a neutral position rather than having to go back and kind of like undo maybe past ideas of what church is. So that's one thing that's, I think, quite different for us, is that I wouldn't say we've got a blank slate because people will have an idea of what church is, but we're not often having to, start from behind to try and catch up at least.
Yeah, I think also, I remember, I think it was in the 80s, Kevin Costner's film Field of Dreams, and it was that kind of that famous quote of, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore in the UK. And so it's very much the church needing to go out into the community. I was speaking last week at our church and just saying that if I moved into a new area and didn't know anyone, I could sit at home and wait for someone to come knocking on my door, and I would be waiting a long time. No one would. The only way that I'm going to be able to get to know people and to befriend so that people can come to my home is if I go out to the local pub or I join a sports team. And it's through going out that enables relationships and trust to be built. And what we have to do is to build trust. And building trust takes a long time. And so what we've discovered is that we have to be in it kind of for the long haul.
Yes.
And so in working out in the community of getting to know the professionals, we have got to the point that Tim's wife, Becky, who used to head up all of our community work, she built such trust with people over 10, 12 years that now we can be a first port of call for professionals if they're wanting help in a situation to support a family or to meet a need. But that takes ages. That just takes ages because they're either suspicious of us or they don't even know that we're there.
It's about relationships, isn't it? It's about building those relationships, which builds that trust, which builds that whatever you'd want to get. Come from
and
that.
I would say as well, like that feeds into that in building trust and stuff, is that the UK has held on, and I'm speaking really generally here, so hopefully you'll just forgive me, but because this isn't always true, but let's speak in generalizations. But the UK has held on to an authenticity because it's constantly kept humble by the apathy of its people. So
say more about that.
So you get treated different as a pastor here. Steve will not get treated different no matter what. So speaking into my kind of area for worship, there's no industry. There's no radio. There's no concerts, which has led to a rootedness. I don't even know if rootedness is a word, but like you look at people that like are my heroes, like Tim Hughes. I think if Tim Hughes was born in the US, his life would look very different now. I'm talking about the guy who wrote Here I Am to Worship. He's a great worship leader. He's a pastor in his local church. That's his job. That's how he takes a salary. I mean, I don't know if he takes a salary, but that wouldn't be the case here. And I wonder what it would look like. We're kind of forced into that humility because nobody cares. Like you can be the best worship leader, and do you know what? You're still going to have to go to work because there's nothing to aspire to. There's nothing to.
It's interesting.
So whereas, there are benefits to that here, but it means that it can cause leaders to fall. Like how many times do we have to see it? How many times do we have to see these crazy things kind of happening that are all too familiar at the moment? I think that we're distanced from that. And not all of it is bad over here, of course, but I think that could be something that we learn the hard way.
You're not going to be a Christian celebrity over there.
It's impossible. No one cares.
No one cares. That's really interesting, which is becoming a thing here, right?
Absolutely.
And social media and the internet have made it easier. Like now you can be a Christian celebrity who doesn't even pastor a church and isn't even in local church ministry. I mean, we've always kind of had like evangelists that go around and preach, but now you can just be a podcaster. And like, no, well, this is a podcast. You're literally, but there can be some danger with that, right? You can get a following and just like, you can't get a following in the UK. I mean, you have to be doing it for the right reasons.
And how many times have we seen that happen throughout Scripture? We get too big for our boots and humbled.
I think also that in growing up, whoever was speaking was telling you what you should do. And it was, you need to do this, you need to do that. I think there's a big shift in the UK where it's now much more about we and whoever is speaking, it needs to be authentic to the speaker. That we're in this together. And so it's definitely less telling people and more kind of calling people to a life of truth, a life of integrity, a life of authenticity. And I think that's a change which is for good. I really do. And it stops that elevation of the person who's speaking is the one who's got it sorted. That's gone.
Yeah.
And it should have done.
So, Tim, you work with the next generation. So just tell me about, and I do think probably generationally, probably like teens, maybe that there might be a closer correlation because our generations are becoming less and less churched. It's like what's the mindset of teens?
Yeah, I definitely think in the UK there's a big shift in younger people kind of finding faith in some way. You know, we're living in a world where, you know, there's lots of, you know, conflict, there's lots of issues, you know, personal, global. And actually, I think a lot of young people are looking for something, they're searching for something. And actually, it's so good and so encouraging to hear and see that they're finding that in churches, they're finding that in youth groups, they're finding that in, you know, individuals, relationships, you know, with people that are kind of, that they can trust. And where I feel like in the UK, especially a number of years ago, where we talked about that trust, where that trust had been broken, and there was lots of kind of doubts of people's kind of honesty within the church. I think that's changing for the better, and I think people are kind of. I actually did a recent sort of survey in a school, so I work in a local sort of secondary school.
Yeah.
And part of that, I decided to do a survey to kind of find out the spiritual temperature, I guess, of the you know the school and the children that attend, and there's about, it's a small school, you know, 600 odd students, and actually I think over 50%, I think it was closer to like 55% of people said that they would attend a church if they were invited, and I was shocked by that. I was shocked. I thought that was going to be way lower. And actually, interestingly, I think again I have to look up the percentages. I think it was only around 25-30% said that they were followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
So 25-30% said they were followers of Jesus. 50-60% said that they would go to a church if invited, which for me is just, I think that's encouraging.
Yeah.
I think it's encouraging that actually people are open to even the idea of going to a church, or the idea of getting involved in some youth group or anything like that. And for me, that's something that's encouraging for the next generation to come in the UK.
Yeah, there is there's a hunger there of that generation. You talked about that the younger families, there was more likelihood, not necessarily that they attend a church, that they have a connection with church. Have you seen that to be true, that younger families with kids in the home, that there's opportunity there?
I think there's definitely opportunity. I think what many churches struggle with is what's the next step for if a family connects with the church through their preschool or whatever. Often that's where it stays. Yeah. It's just like, no, we were there for that time, and then they've moved on. And I think, you know, part of any church leadership responsibilities is to work out what's the next step. Yeah. What's the next small step that they can take, and I think that's something that so many churches are wrestling with. Yeah, really are. If there was an answer, then we would see loads more families coming. Yeah. But I think there's this big disconnection between attending a church-run kids preschool event and come to church then. Well, that's just way too big. Yeah. That's way too big a step for people, and it's working out what that could look like.
Yeah, I think what you have all said is that what you have experienced is the end of Christendom, right? Like the idea. I mean, Christendom was this world where pretty much everyone had a Christian worldview. That there were expectations, there were assumptions you could make about how people had their morals, their values, their habits were shaped within a Christian kingdom, so to speak. And now, I mean, researchers and theologians have said, like, hey, Christendom's over. What I think we struggle with in America, and especially in the South, because there's vestiges of it, But what I've tried to explain to people over really the last 10 to 20 years of ministry is like Christendom, like our percentages of people who go to church are the same. But what I hope Americans and American churchgoers will know is that their unchurched friends probably think more like the kind of people that you're experiencing in the United Kingdom. This is the way I've always explained it to a Christian or to churchgoers. Have you ever driven by a mosque and felt guilty that you didn't go to daily prayers? Or driven by a synagogue and felt guilty, I didn't go to services on Sabbath? And they all answer, no. And I'll respond, that is exactly how non-church people feel driving by the church or when they hear the church. They don't feel guilty. There was a time people felt guilty. They felt like it was something they ought to have done or they ought to be going to church. And now it's just out of sight, out of mind. Like it's not even a thought. Like, I just hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And well, I think, again, another kind of twist that's happened. I remember growing up and it was always about sending out missionaries. And I remember in my late teens, early 20s, people talking about Britain being a mission field. And that just seemed odd to me.
Yeah.
Where I think I've discovered that it has definitely become that is in sport. That go back 20 years to be a Christian in playing football professionally was incredibly hard. Soccer. That's right. Sorry, soccer. And very, very isolating. And whereas now, because so many players have come from abroad and are very open about their faith, the whole thing has shifted. So I interviewed an ex-pro footballer, and he was just saying that I'd asked about how difficult it is to be a Christian in a football team, and he said it's not difficult at all now, because you've got Salah, who's a Muslim, you've got Saka, who's a Christian, you've got various kind of well-known stars who are just so open about whatever faith that they have that suddenly it's become really accepted. And for me, I just think it shows it's almost like some of these footballers are missionaries now here in the UK and helping to bring about change.
Yeah, that's interesting. So one of the things here is, and we've talked about this a little bit during your stay here, is what is much more common for us is church hurt. Is people have had church hurt. Do you see that in the UK?
We do, like to a lesser extent, but yeah, people are still searching for the perfect church, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't exist. And if you join, it's not going to be anymore. But,
What is your church hurt? Because our church hurt is often, now sometimes it's often what we said. It's kind of these toxic, abusive leaders. Something was really bad in the way they handled money or abuse.
Yeah, it's less, my experience is that it's less individual based.
Okay.
And it's more organization based.
Okay.
So it's not this person did this. It's I didn't like how you handled this. And of course, like it is people hurting people, but a lot of it is like I chose this lifestyle and you didn't accept me, or I chose to believe this and you didn't handle that well, or I think we should have done this and you. It's rather than like a finger pointing, because even the people that people have been hurt by our church, but there aren't many people that would say they've been hurt by our church that still wouldn't have a great relationship with Steve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's true for larger than the Forge. Do you echo that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I would say so. And nearly always it's how a situation has been handled by the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how people have been viewed by the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you make space for people who do not believe, but they're curious, and your church is the first one they check out? They're invited by a friend. they're curious, but they're like, I don't think this resurrection stuff's not true, or I'm not sure. I'm not even sure there's a God. How do you create space to be welcoming for them and yet hold on to your convictions? Because I think that's what everybody worries about, right?
Yeah, and we've had zero issues, I think, with that. We would say very clearly that people can belong before they believe.
That's good.
And where people kind of question us on that, it's, well, how do we have influence? How can we have influence on people if they're not welcomed and they don't feel part of a community? So the people who are on that journey, we would want for them to be as loved and as part of the church as possible. And I realize that sometimes people get stuck there. But nowadays, I just think it takes a long time for people to find faith, to really choose to say, I want to follow Jesus. It's because there's no history behind it. And so there's an awful lot of learning, exploring, to find out, one, if it's true, and secondly, if God can be trusted. So we want to be a community that helps people and walks with people on that journey, and are happy to do that over a length of time and not lose heart and just think, let's give up on them.
If they're exploring, we want to give them the best seat in the house.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's behind a sound desk.
And
sometimes it's serving someone coffee. Sometimes even welcoming someone. It's bizarre what people, like for me, that's really bizarre. Like if I didn't believe in this, I wouldn't be willing to, like we have this volunteer culture in the UK, which again is kind of individual. Like you wouldn't be as shared over here, but like if someone's exploring, like getting them serving and part of community is the best thing.
I think the kind of the one of the loveliest things I hear of people who haven't yet got a faith, but when they walk in on their first week, so often we hear, it feels like I've come home. And for me, it's just like, that is what we want. For people to find a safe place and a safe place to belong.
Tim, I'm sure you see that a lot with Next Gen.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we talked this morning about questions that people have, and everybody's got questions, especially if you're going into something that's new and that's different. We all have questions, and you want to go to a place where it's non-judgmental, where people aren't going to laugh at you, look down at you for asking those questions. For the adults, we have things like Alpha Course. Which is a great place to answer some of those, or ask some of those questions that maybe you can't ask in a different way. But I think again, I talked this morning about young people. There's a shift. At the moment, a lot of people in the UK, and I'm sure in America too, are struggling with that, the whole identity and losing their identity, or finding their identity in another place, and struggling to know what their identity is in so many ways. So I think that young people don't necessarily come to church for questions, but actually they find the answers that they're looking for. And I feel like churches, youth groups, youth leaders, and ultimately God can give them a lot of answers to doubts and questions that they might have. And I think that churches, obviously we know church is a safe place to do that. And that's...
This is why, and I know one of the things that one of our shared values is outward facing, and it's one of there is kind of this concern, the concerning thing for me in the American church is there is this growing movement and kind of idea of like the church is for believers, right? It is the body of believers. Of like, well, of course, I mean, you have to profess faith to be counted as a member of the church, right? I mean, baptism is initiation into the global church. But gosh, when I look at Jesus, I mean, I look at him often inviting people who weren't quite sure what they believed to follow him. I mean, when he invites the two sets of brothers, Peter, Andrew, and James and John, it's just like, if they had said right then, do you think this guy's a Messiah? I don't know if they'd have been like, I don't know. He's a rabbi. He just invited me to follow him. I think we're going to do that. Same thing with Matthew. And I say we've got to create spaces that are open for people who aren't sure what they believe to maybe start following Jesus, to explore. And because of that, we have to just think about, what does it look like for them to be in the room? How do we help them belong and show them, well, hey, here's what it looks like that we're following Jesus. You're invited to come along.
And Steve will lean in, like, is great at leaning into that with his teaching. And I'm sure it's the same here. Is like, you might be following Jesus or not, but this is some advice that's going to make you a better dad.
Yeah.
Or this is going to make you, this is going to make you a better husband.
Yeah.
And like, if you follow Jesus, then we think he'll make your life better and make you better at life. But
Yeah.
this is great advice regardless of where you're at on that journey. And we don't apologize for that. And I think we can often face criticism, and people think that we are watering something down or glossing over kind of the Jesus part. It's like, no, this is what he's teaching.
Yes.
It's just, we think it's great advice regardless of whether you believe he's the Messiah or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's the way that leads to life, right? So, and if you try it once, you might find a little more life, and then go, maybe I'll try something else, and maybe I'll maybe I'll do it all.
Yeah. That's it. So a guy who got baptized at Easter, in his testimony, he said when he first came along to church, he said he wasn't sure what he believed, but he felt the talks were like motivational talks, and then slowly over time, he discovered Jesus.
Yeah.
And so they're much more than motivational talks. But for a starting point, you could, if it's not motivational, what is it?
Yeah.
It's another boring talk. So do you keep going?
Yeah.
So it's
Of course, what people say, like, we got to call people to repentance.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, How about invite? How about we all need repentance? Like, we're all broken.
Exactly.
We're all continuing to.
And that's again where it comes to the we.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
We.
It's us. It's not you. You need that. It's no. We need to.
Yeah.
And it's constantly bringing it back to we're on a journey, and we might be in different places on that journey, but we all still need God's love. We all still need God's forgiveness. We all still need, the compassion that He offers and the grace that He shows.
That's a good place to stop. We all need it, whether we drink coffee or tea. We all need it. We all need it. Well, all right. Guys, thank you so much. This has been such a good conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
loved it. Grateful.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of One More Podcast. And these guys are great. I hope you'll be praying for what's going on at the Forge in Suffolk County in the United Kingdom. And we're excited to see what God does through just this relationship. And tune in next time. Here's a little sneak peek of our next conversation on One More Podcast. Do you ever feel like, do either of you feel like it's harder for you in ministry because you're a woman?
I felt like that just one time, and it was when you asked me to preach.
You're not supposed to say I caused it.
You didn't cause it, but just the opportunity you gave me to preach on stage. The time I did it by myself, I remember thinking, will people walk out? As soon as I get on the stage.
Yeah.
Because I think that has happened before.
That's it for today's episode of One More Podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. If this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or made you think, do us a favor. Subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this episode with a friend. Seriously, sharing it helps more people find the kind of conversations we all need. And hey, if you've got questions you want us to tackle in a future episode, send them to askus@onemorepodcast.org. We'll see you next time for one more conversation about what matters.